Welcome to the training video to learn how to add a calendar event. We're logged into i4see as Portsmouth, and we're going to go to school annual data. Again, this is the best place to kind of launch to get work on the calendar. In this case, the first example we're going to look at is a school that's reported in days, the Dendero school. We click on calendar, and you already most likely have events already set up. Maybe you realized, however, that there was an emergency closure the day after Columbus Day because of a maintenance repair. So we'll go ahead and click add a new event. We're going to say it was an emergency closure or maintenance emergency. The date was on the 15th of October, and school was not open. School was closed. And we'll say it was an emergency repair. And this is for a Dendero school. The things I want to point out even before I insert this record is one that when we insert records, the key point here is school closed. If school was closed, then what we're going to find is that the total number of half days for your school will be reduced. So instead of 356, because this is a full day that was closed, the half days should be reduced to 354. The other thing to point out is these events apply to your entire school, so both these areas, grades 1 through 6 and K, should both see the reduction. If we had said school was not closed, maybe it was some type of professional development day where the students were there for half the day but then left early. In that case, you'd say the school was not closed, in which case the half days would not change because the students were still receiving that instruction. And as long as they're there for half day, the state law allows them to have the full day of instruction. So in this case, though, we're saying school is closed. So when I click insert, we should see this changes from 356 to 354, and we see that happened. And so that's the that's the purpose of adding events, is to let us know if we have to change the number of days the school is enrolled, and additionally determine whether students were there for each student record and submitted in the EOI. You can go ahead and click if that was a mistake. You can delete it. We could, for example, edit it and change it to say actually the school was not closed. In this case, when we save the record, again, we'll see it goes back up to 356. Maybe it was a maintenance emergency, but they left halfway through the day. Let me also show you how it works for hours. So here's a school that reports in hours, New Franklin. So we'll go ahead and go to their calendar. Very similar. We're going to add an event. So in this case, we'll add a new event. You'll see it's very similar to the day's event, but in calendars, you actually enter some hours. So in this example, let's, for example, say that we had a professional development day, but maybe it's a day where the students came in for a few hours at the beginning of the morning. So we'll say the hours of instruction were maybe 3 hours. The students were there for 3 hours and then they left. So we'll say the school was not closed. And we'll say the students had instruction in the morning. So instruction in morning. We'll say this is for New Franklin. And what we're going to see here is where the students typically were in school for 5.5 hours a day, and now we're saying they were only in school for 3 hours a day. So now we should see that 2.5 hours are removed from the instruction. The system had been assuming that the students were enrolled for the 5.5 hours those days, but now we're saying they were only enrolled for 3 hours of those days. So we'll see here, this goes down from 1,001 down to 998, both of them do, and that's a reflection of the fact that that day students were only enrolled for a few hours. We could do the same thing with a full day of professional development, so let's add another event. Let's also call this, maybe it's a parent-teacher workshop day. And in this case, students weren't enrolled in school at all. So maybe this is actually on the 16th, and students weren't enrolled at all. So we put in 0. We say the school was closed because there was no instruction, and we'll say parent conference day. Again, this is for New Franklin. And at this point, we should see, because they typically were open 5.5 hours each day, we should see these numbers drop by 5.5 hours. We insert the event. And now we see students were really only in school this year for 993 hours of instruction. And once again, when you enter the end of year submission for each student and you tell us the student when they started and when they ended school, we'll know how many hours they were in school on the 15th and 16th based on this information. It's as easy as that. That's how you enter events. Again, if you made a mistake, I should point out you can easily delete events as well. So maybe this professional development workshop day didn't actually happen, and we can just go ahead and delete it. And again, when we delete it, we'll see a reflection in the total number of hours as well. So that's how you add an event. Please don't forget, call us if you have got questions or reach out to us if you've got questions. Thank you.